When you hear the term dress codes, most automatically think of restrictions and being told what you can and cannot wear. In the past year, students have started to think this way as well, have grown tired of administrators blaming things like bra straps showing for the distraction of other students. Just like some of these students, I have grown up with teachers constantly telling my fellow students to cover up and stop being just a distraction. Because of this, I've researched this topic and written multiple research papers trying to better understand the different viewpoints of the people involved. I also come from a long line of educators in my family that keep me informed of their own school policies on dress codes, and although their schools are not as severe, as some I have found in my research, there are always problems with dress codes limiting students. In this speech, I will show you why dress codes are unethical in learning environments and what can be done to reduce the effects on students. The main reason why dress codes are unethical is because that they reduce students' rights of expression, mainly restrict to one gender, and are distraction in the learning environment. In the article, Schools Are Slut-Shaming Girls While Enforcing Dress Codes, New York Times writer Elena Docterman shows how girls are getting the short end of the stick when it comes to dress codes. At Tottenville High School in Staten Island, New York, 200 dress code violations were given out in the first few days of school. Out of these 200 violations, 90% of them were given to females. Girls were blatantly told that their clothing was disruptive to teaching and learning. In an article published in the Christian Science Monitor, Lindsay Ellis writes about how one principal went about violating dress codes at Devil Lake High School. At this high school, the principal saw about 30 girls violating a dress code in about a month. Because of this, he called an all girls only assembly, showing them different clips of the movie Pretty Woman, which showed the main character as a prostitute as well as a higher class, elegantly dressed lady. The girls felt very degraded because they were being compared to a prostitute. The assistant principal actually told the TV crew that the aim of the dress code was to keep boys focused on their academics, not considering the girls and how they felt when they were being called out for wearing inappropriate clothing. Students have started to speak out about these dress codes infringements, and actually the Huffington Post writer and feminist activist Soraya Kamalia writes about the trending hashtag in dress codes, or how schools skirt around sexism and homophobia. In this article, she goes over a hashtag that was actually trending that said, "I am more than a distraction." This hashtag was started by an 8th grader, Frankie Lindsay, who was fed up with her school's dress code and how females were getting blamed for distracting other students. Frankie says, the school board telling a girl that she has to dress a certain way so she won't be distracting is like telling a girl that she needs to change herself in order not to be distracting. In Why School Dress Codes May Be Harmful to Girls, published in the Christian Science Monitor and written by Rowena Lindsay, Andrew Gloylan-Kaler says, when asked about the hashtag, the research is pretty clear that it is never appropriate to shame a child or to make them feel degraded. By pointing out girls who are distracting boys, the girls are feeling degraded, and the way that many administrators are going about it make them feel very uncomfortable. As well as dress codes being mainly pointed at women, they also disregard transgender students as well as gay students. The above examples I showed how dress codes are mainly pointed at females, but they do not take into consideration transgender students. In 4 Lies About Dress Codes That Cover Up Their Oppressive Effects by Ellen Fredericks, published in the Everyday Feminist magazine, she speaks about how dress codes disregard transgender students and gay students altogether. Dress codes penalize non-gender conforming students. An example of this is a 14-year-old student who actually got suspended from school because he was wearing makeup to school. Another example of this is a student who wanted to wear tux in her school photo, but actually got removed from the yearbook altogether because she did not follow the dress code of the photo. Another reason why dress codes are unethical is because they're disruptive to a learning environment. The more time that students have to take out of their daily lives to make sure they are following a dress code, make sure that they more time that they have to be taken out of class to change, is more time that they are not learning. A new student claimed she was forced to wear a shame suit after a dress code violation by Teresa Benson, a writer for the New York Times. She talked about a girl who was pulled out of class in the middle of the day to change into what the girl called a shame suit. She took the time out of her day to change into the shame suit, which was a really big yellow shirt that said dress code violation on it, because the other options were either wait in the office, not in the classroom, wait in the office for her mom or dad who were at work to come get her a change of clothes, or to have out of school suspensions later that week, both of which would have been impending on her education for the week. So she chose to wear what she calls the shame suit. As I've already told you, the dress codes are very unethical nowadays because they restrict to one gender. They don't take into consideration students' ways of expressing themselves, and they take time out of educational time that should be spent in school. The solution to this is very simple. Simply know the rules and take students into consideration. When you know the rules, you must know the rules, because if you don't know whether or not you are actually being infringed upon. In Girl Speaks Out Against Sexist Dress Code, written by a research assistant in the Investigate Fund of the Nation Institute, Celia D'Anastasio brings up the Tinker versus Desmond School District Supreme Court case, in which a student was banned from school because he wore a black band in protest of the Vietnam War. The court ruled that the schools actually get to dictate what they think is fair for students to express in freedom of speech. However, the court also ruled that rulings must be consistent and fair they must be consistent as well. For an example of this is a student cannot wear an anti-abortion shirt, and the school is not allowed to if a student wears an anti-abortion shirt, the school must also allow pro-abortion shirts to be worn. They cannot discriminate which ideology that is allowed to be worn. Another thing to help dress codes is to take students' viewpoints into consideration. Former head of New York's New City School in St. Louis, Mo, Thomas R. Hoare, Ph.D., writes in his article, Dress Code, that our decision is almost always better than mine. He was talking about this when drafting a dress code for his school. He actually emailed this to all of his colleagues, asking him if he needed any editing to it, and one coworker actually came back with that it was very female-based, and that students might see this as sexist. So he edited it, and he really thinks that talking to students about what they think the dress code should be is very important as well. Dress codes that are currently being implicated in schools have serious flaws. Dress codes reduce the student's right of expression, mainly restrict one gender, and take away from a productive learning environment. To fix this, students, parents, and administrators should work on considering the student's point of view. Also, students should know their legal rights so that they can identify when their rights are being infringed upon. I hope you all can see why current dress codes are unethical and how they all affect students. If you have any questions about your current school's dress code or wanting to change it, I encourage you to contact your school's superintendent with your concerns and suggestions for change. Thank you.